with one more speech before we proceed to the panel discussion. The speech will be given by Isabel Jacinto. She's a pharmacist from the National Association of Portuguese Pharmacists and will give a talk on the connection between non-communicable diseases and sustainable development goals in Europe.
Good morning. My name is Isabel Jacinto. I'm a pharmacist at the National Association of Portuguese Pharmacists, INF. I'm also the chair of the working group on the role of pharmacists in non-communicable diseases of the International Pharmaceutical Federation, FIP. First of all, thank you for the opportunity of being here to share with you the role of pharmacies in the connection between non-communicable diseases and sustainable development goals. Pharmacies are a relevant and valuable health resource in the fight against NCDs. Pharmacies represent access, the most frequently visited health professional available to entire population, long opening hours of operation in pharmacies, ensure safety, control products and supply chain, professional mediation, and quality, high training and education standards for primary health care services. Pharmacies have regular interactions with patients, even with those who do not see their physicians. These interactions can be used to improve the prevention of NCDs, the access to care, the responsible use of the drugs, and the adherence to treatments. Pharmacists are able to perform more relevant activities in the healthcare team, boosting prevention, providing early screening and point-of-care testing, specialized counseling, and long-term disease management. Pharmacists could play a bigger role in NCDs, improving health outcomes by reinforcing health system cohesion while facing NCDs challenges. In order to improve the control of NCDs, the reinforcement of prevention strategies should be a center of all health policies. It is the only strategy that can effectively contribute to sustainable outcomes. It is essential to implement projects focused on reducing the prevalence and impact of risk factors, reducing the number of NCDs patients and related deaths. This will consequently provide for the sustainable growth of national economies. It is also fundamental to work towards an equal and universal access to healthcare in order to reduce NCD's impact and mortality. Therefore, the patient should be included in all this process, voicing to their needs and complaints. Finally, one should make sure the strategies developed are well adapted and personalized to each patient. Although it is important to have enough specialized human resources for health, it is crucial to have a better management and utilization of existing resources. In addition, pharmacies may take on a more prominent role in NCDs prevention, screening, and patient referral. Pharmaceutical interventions can play an essential role, particularly in providing specialized counseling to the citizens and managing their chronic conditions, as it is the qualified health professional that the population has more frequent contact with. Community pharmacies are a gateway to healthcare system and rendering such system more efficient. Pharmacies have developed their strategy as a prevention and treatment center, with services in the field of prevention, early detection, and treatment. I have some examples for the pharmacy's intervention on NCDs. First of all, identification of individuals at high risk with referral to the doctor and advice on healthy lifestyles. Then, identification and resolution of situations that compromise the safe, correct, and effective use of medication, promotion of adherence to therapy, and counseling on medicines. Finally, collaboration with other health professionals, for example, physicians and nurses. In April 2018, I participated as speaker at the conference Global Dialogue on Partnership for Sustainable Financing of NCDs Prevention and Control, promoted by WHO. At this relevant meeting, I had the opportunity to highlight the roles that pharmacies can perform towards better control of NCDs. The WHO recognized that pharmacies can play an important role as primary healthcare network, providing early screening and testing, advanced counseling, and long-term disease management, including key point-of-care measurement and drug management. Increased cooperation between specialists, for example, physicians, nurses, pharmacists, social workers, involved in chronic disease management can be both beneficial for the patients and cost-effective. In workshop, a vital investment scaling up health workforce for NCDs by WHO, the policy recommendation and innovative solutions included pharmacists asking for reimbursed NCDs-related care provided by pharmacists and increased cooperation between doctors and pharmacies for NCD-related care. The working group on the role of pharmacies in non-communicable diseases of FIP produced a reference paper on this subject to compile best practices and encourage more pharmacies around the world to take leading role in NCDs prevention, screening, patient referral, and treatment optimization. This reference paper named Beating Non-Communicable Diseases in Community, and it released in the last 7th April, the World Health Day. Let me show you some key messages of reference paper. Firstly, about collaborative approaches. Optimizing health-related NCDs outcomes requires collaborative care models involving all health professionals as well as patients and caregivers. Community pharmacies remain universally one of the most accessible primary healthcare professionals, offering quick and qualified support to patients' needs. Pharmacies are embedded within communities and can be used to improve the health outcomes of patients with NCDs. Pharmacies use the expertise as a valuable part of the multidisciplinary healthcare team, adding unique contributions to the clinical outcomes of medicines, therapy, and to patients' quality of life. Secondly, about prevention, screening, and referral. Pharmacies are ideally placed to be involved in tackling NCDs, especially through prevention with interventions such as tobacco cessation and weight management, and promoting healthier lifestyles. Pharmacies led screening programs targeting high-risk individuals, ensure appropriate resource management in healthcare systems through symptom assessment and point-of-care measurement for adequate and timely referrals to physicians. Access to pharmacy screening services in community pharmacies may be limited in some countries due to lack of clear remuneration models or unnecessary difficult public health laws. The elimination of such barriers is an important step towards ensuring optimal patient care. Thirdly, about better treatment outcomes. Pharmacies can encourage preventive measures supported adequate prescribing and improve patient adherence to and safety of treatments, both pharmacological and non-pharmacological. Pharmacies-led medicines adherence needs to be prioritized both in terms of treatment outcomes and the economic consequences of non-adherence, highlighting the need of pharmacists to consolidate their role in this area. Community pharmacies play a key role in promoting the responsible use of medicines for NCDs, adding to patient knowledge and ability to manage their therapy autonomously or with the support of caregivers. Pharmacists have a crucial role in therapy management, including medication review, assisting with correct use of devices, and disease management programs. Patients can play a major role in managing their own health and preventing NCDs, and pharmacists can actively encourage patient and caregiver engagement and empowerment through education. Finally, about barriers and challenge to the full use of pharmacies in NCD care. In some countries, lack of adequate access to pharmacies due to severe workforce shortage is jeopardizing the health of patients with NCDs, and government action is necessary to increase the supply of well-qualified pharmacists. Pharmacies intervention supported by evidence-based professional protocols contribute to ensuring that care pathways are informed by results of screening assessments and tests. Evidence is strong concerning the value of pharmacists' contribution to NCD prevention and management and the quality of use of medicines. Adequate recognition and remuneration of such contributions by both public and private third-party payers could lead to the consolidation of this growth. FIP recommends that FIP member organization and all national and local associations of pharmacists use the evidence and case studies in this report to showcase the effectiveness of pharmacists in prevention and control of NCDs. Collaborate with other health professional associations like physicians, nurses, nutritionists to develop joint strategies and methods for implementing closer working relationships and multidisciplinary efforts that include pharmacists. Developed competency frameworks that support appropriate pharmacy development and promote the achievement of an adequate level of competence related to NCDs at all career stages. Developed strategies to incorporate pharmacies in health programs, namely in the prevention and management of NCDs, promoting also fair compensation of pharmacies for these services. Engaged with health authorities to include pharmaceutical expertise in public health efforts and pharmacies as available healthcare network. Look forward to multidisciplinary cooperation with other health professionals and increased integration of community pharmacies within the primary care network. There are many opportunities for pharmacies in Portugal, my country. Firstly, the agreement signed by INF and the last health minister focused on the incentives of pharmacists' cooperation with public objectives. This agreement foresees an independent evaluation of services provided by pharmacies in order to determine their value of health system and possible remuneration schemes in those fields. The implementation of these agreements represents also an opportunity to reshape pharmacy cooperation in public health and reinforce commitments that can succeed in more health promotion and disease prevention. Secondly, the agreement signed by INF and family health care units with doctors and nurses of the NHS primary health care network focused on multidisciplinary cooperation among health professionals, increasing integration of community pharmacies within the primary care network and generating savings for the state and better health management for the citizens. Thirdly, the agreement signed by INF and nurses focused on increasing the integration of nursing care in the range of services that pharmacies can provide to the population. Let me show you some three examples of Portuguese pharmacies intervention. Firstly, about prevention and screening. Pharmacies was applying this campaign, No to Diabetes, promoted by Carlos Gulbenkian Foundation. Pharmacies use the Find Risk questionnaire adapt to the informatic system CPharma and score risk calculate automatically. Pharmacists encourage people to adopt healthy lifestyles and refer to the physician when the score was high or very high. Technological integration with patient health data platform and primary care software risks for communicate to the patient health data platform and higher risks are contacted by family doctor to the make an appointment. You can see the good results of this campaign. From 4th November 2017 to 1st May 2018, 383 pharmacists participate in the campaign. 8,112 find risk tests doing by pharmacists. 4,577 patients had moderate high or very high risk of developing type 2 diabetes. 2,000 medical appointments were meeting. Diagnosed 190 unaware diabetic patients. Secondly, about the therapy and disease management. Pharmacists, physicians, and nurses were defined professional protocols supporting common objectives and shared interventions. These interventions target patients with cardiovascular diseases. The aim is to contribute to the improvement of patient health outcomes in these therapeutic areas through the cooperation between all the health policies professionals that allow care to be as seamless as possible, and it can be both beneficial for the patient and cost effective. Another project that it is very important for the professional intervention of pharmacies is the safety in dispensing and medicines use. The project aims to contribute for the proper, effective and safe use of medicines and to promote adherence in patients, reinforcing patient role in adherence and adequate use of medicines. Trained pharmacies as gatekeepers for medicine safety and facilitate patient pathology management and increasing pharmacies' value proposition and customer engagement. The project includes several channels to send pathology for the patient: label, coupon, email, and app. Another channel, scheduling test message as reminders about adherence promotion and refill. We believe that people won't have excuse for not properly taking their medicines. In conclusion, all the various sectors, civil society, professional associations, private sector, are co-responsible for NCD prevention and control. We can only reach our goal if everyone understands the importance of this matter and is available to communicate, cooperate, and contribute all together. It is essential to develop strategies that address the root of the problem, impacting all generations and changing their lifestyles, and inadequate behaviors that have been consistent over the years. All the members must be brought together by common and collective activity regarding this matter, so the message should be clear and consistent. So we can all be working together to achieve a greater common goal. The message will not be effective enough if each sector works alone on their own. Professional associations also have a crucial role to play, not only by promoting new professional rules and services, but also by defining competency frameworks used in workforce development and by fostering interprofessional collaboration for better patient care. Community pharmacies may be generally in the private sector, but they offer a valuable public service, and their role in NCD prevention, screening, and management can greatly contribute towards the same goals as public health system. Pharmacies are a valuable resource in healthcare system. Pharmacies play an important role as primary care healthcare network, providing early screening and testing, advanced counseling, and long-term chronic disease management, meeting the needs of the population and to improve health outcomes. Last but not least, NCDs create new health challenge and need new health answers. Pharmacists and pharmacies are already committed with the future of health system. Thank you for your time.
will now invite all of the speakers from today's sessions to join me on stage for the panel discussion. And in the meantime, I invite the participants to log in to the Slido account and start asking questions.
Ja. Maar bij Jay zijn het er wel meer hoor.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will now proceed to the panel discussion. We'll do the same as yesterday. You can ask questions through the app or through the audience, and we'll start with a question that was asked through the app. And the top question at the moment is, have you any concerns about private data safety when it comes to e-health? Do you think that concerns in population are a barrier to establish e-health solutions?
I suppose this question is for me. Cybersecurity is a very important aspect of all digital solutions. So IT companies are doing a lot. But for sure, this is something important that is always considered. So in terms of cybersecurity, all the companies, they do their best to have it. And the importance is really big because imagine, for example, a pacemaker for the heart. It's a digital solution. And imagine if you hack this pacemaker. In fact, you can kill a patient. And that's why cybersecurity is considered to be very, very important, of vital importance for all these digital solutions, and everything is done to have it.
If I can add, because this is also one of the areas that we are working in ASCP, I think the problem with the digital is not the security of the data, but more the business model of some of the operators that we see in the health space. And I mean, people are more concerned about Facebooks and Googles that are exploiting the data for unknown reasons. There are enough of articles to show that people, when they know why they are giving their data for, they are more receptive to the idea of sharing the data. And I think this is part of the patient empowerment. So if you know that your health data that you are going to share with the research institute is going to be used to improve the health service, to develop a new medicine, or provide more data into the research and improve the survival of the patients, everyone is going to say yes for sharing the data. But when you know that your data is going to be taken by technology companies and maybe used for wrong reasons, this is the problem which we definitely see as one of the barriers, because there is not enough of explanation why the health data is needed and what is going to be done with it. So I think the emerging smaller startups that are creating and pooling their health data, where a person that is going to tap in and going to provide their data with the understanding what's going to be done with it, are going to be more successful in the long term than the big data companies that no one knows what happens. It's like a black hole. You put your data and then you don't know where it goes.
Maybe to clarify something else, personal data, usually with these digital solutions, personal data could be seen, for example, by the treating physician or by the pharmacist operating with a prescription, let's say. But all these digital companies, in fact, they don't see personal data. Data there is aggregated in order to have a report, in order to see the trend or whatever. So, in fact, all these companies, they don't have access to personal data. It's just aggregated data. and everything is encrypted there. So the level of cybersecurity is very high.
I think there's several levels of discussion. So we had probably the program what was trained in Estonia, Slovenia, and Germany about education of patients with oral cancer drugs. And it was decided by the data security to collect the data about the patient by himself in the pharmacy who is serving and educating the patient. And we are only collecting data who names the age and the gender. And then we look for an independent outcome of side effects of new drugs coming on the market, because the companies deliver us with these new drugs after only short term of research time, and the side effects are occurring in practice. So I think there must be different levels of collecting data, and as Ruata was saying, as well as the knowledge of the participant, because I don't trust, I can say maybe somebody else does trust, but not me, that aggregated data will not come finally in my personalized view by somebody else.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a question from the audience? Yes, I see one here in the middle. Kevin? Can you raise your hand?
Hi. My question is this. When we go to e-health and digital health, the robotics and the artificial intelligence will substitute to educated people, and there will be not enough, I think there will be not enough opportunities to educated people to work with the companies. In best case scenario, there will be educated people to manage a robot, or I think manage a website. How do you predict the future of educated people to work in digital health?
Okay, you know, there are different books and different articles about your question. There is a very interesting book called The Third Wave. So the future is for the educated people, and the future is for the customized solution. It's not for the mass production. So for all of you, if you're smart enough, there are a lot of opportunities. And regarding the other concept of the fourth industrial revolution, it will be this combination of physical and tech world, you know. So if we are well educated, if we are ready to change and to embrace the change, I think we have a lot of opportunities in the years to come.
And I think that I wouldn't fear digital as a replacement of the professionals. I think that the digital and artificial intelligence works best when it assists the clinical decision of the professionals. And I think the good example would be the typical dispensing software in a pharmacy. You have a lot of noise, so you have a lot of interactions coming together, etc. But you need a pharmacist to decide on which one you need to act and which ones you can disregard. And it will depend on the personal profile of the patient. It will depend, possibly the side effect is there or interaction is there, but the benefit of taking it still outweighs the risk. So I think this is where artificial intelligence works best, when it is combined together with the clinical expertise of the professional. Of course, if you think about, I'm talking about radiology results, etc., artificial intelligence is much more efficient, and I think it's much better to intake thousands and thousands of the scans. So possibly it will be much better to detect certain broken bones or whatever than the professional, but then you need the professional to decide what to do with it afterwards, and also to check if it has been correctly diagnosed. So I think I wouldn't fear that now you will not need pharmacists or surgeons in the future and the robotics are taking over. It's more how do you combine and make sure that it minimizes any risks, and also it works for the benefit of the society and improves the health outcomes.
So I would like just to reinforce what Rose and Amiraj just said. So artificial intelligence, digital is an opportunity for digest data, to automatize program data and program operations processes. So it's an opportunity. And in terms of education, what I think, and to reinforce what Jurata mentioned, is the opportunity to somehow interact in the decision-making process, because this is something subjective. So everything that is subjective, everything that is not programmable, everything that requires an interpretation, that will be what we can intervene as pharmacists or as professionals. So it's to look at everything that is not objective and anything that is not programmable. So there's an opportunity for education there.
And I would like to add something. I hope you don't think that artificial intelligence is an artificial brain. So artificial intelligence, in fact, is an algorithm done by humans. So we need people to do these algorithms, and we need people to update them and to upgrade them. And from my experience, what is also very important, in order to have the right digital solutions, we have to work with the physicians and with the patients, and in your case with the pharmacists, because all the issues, in fact, are in this collaboration with the healthcare professional and the patient. So we have to be there in order to give these digital solutions. And the only way to do this is to have the experts that could be there. So no fear about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have a question that's getting a lot of likes through the app, so we'll proceed with that one first. What is your opinion on euthanasia? With increased incidence of cancer, do you think that we should revise and include it into palliative medicine?
When it's connected to oncology, it's connected to all other illnesses. So as a German, I have a special position to euthanasia, for sure. Some years ago, we were the master of euthanasia in Germany, and we are very feared about that it can be misused in future. So I'm very strict in a way that I don't prefer euthanasia decisions in that way.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions now from the audience? I think I saw one more hand go up. Yes, Paulina, there is a
Good afternoon, panelists. I do have a question. When it comes to cancer treatment, do you think that therapeutic drug monitoring, novel pharmacometrics, and pharmacoinformatics, which is currently emerging, can be the optimal solutions in terms of cost, in terms of personalized therapy and the therapy outcome when it comes to cancer?
Maybe my British is not so good to understand it in the right way, sorry for that. But when you mean that the treatment, what we are offering to cancer patients, will be helpful or not, was that the question?
Yes.
Okay, so then we have to look for the outcome, what we have reported in different areas of treatment. That makes a different progress, in breast cancer. In that time when I was young, a lady beside my house died in 2 months in breast cancer. Today, 80% survive without any doubt. So that means we make progress. But on the other hand side, we are not only making progress in the way to save money, we're making also progress in throwing money out. That was a discussion I had yesterday evening. So when you go to Starbucks and buy a latte chai, then you pay €4.60. You can buy the same for 5 FU for infusion. Nobody cares for totally drug monitoring with 5 FU, as well as you know that's a high difference because of the enzymes are different in human being, and there would be a better outcome for patients if we will do that. But it is not done by cost effectiveness. So these are things we have to discuss and put our hands on. A lot of other things we can probably share later on.
Okay, thank you. We'll now proceed to another question from the app, which already got 30 likes as well. So, in some countries, OTC drugs are not necessarily sold in pharmacies, but also in other stores. What is your opinion on this?
institutional opinion of ASGP is that we don't have an opinion on this because because definitely first we need to talk about why the OTCs outside of the pharmacies and the initial reason why they were put out of the pharmacies is to increase access. So I think in some countries definitely I see a good reason because you have huge distances that are not served by a pharmacy, and I'm thinking for example about the Scandinavian countries where to drive to the nearest pharmacy you can have 50 kilometers journey. So definitely there is a good case to have some of the, it's always a limited list of OTCs available from convenience store, because otherwise you may have patients that may not have access to the medicines easily. So there are some cases where I think it's not such a bad idea. However, we think that because OTCs are not like any common goods, we always argue that there should be certain restrictions, and what we see is that pack size normally is smaller. We normally see additional warnings on those boxes because one of the important things is when they are outside of the pharmacy, they don't have the advice of the pharmacist. So we need as an industry to ensure that we provide additional level of security for those products that are outside of the pharmacy. To be honest, as a pharmacist, what do I think about it? I think there are, as I said, there are some cases where I think it's justified, but certain class of medicines I wouldn't like to leave pharmacies, and I'm more thinking about pseudoephedrine or codeine, because those substances can be easily abused, and this is where we see that it should always be served and supplied by a pharmacist.
Okay, thank you. Do we have another question from the audience? Yes, in the back, in the middle.
Hello, Nicholas from Germany. So thank you very much. We learned about the increased convenience for self-care for patients in digital health. But we also heard a lot about the importance of direct contact between doctors, pharmacists, and their patients. So those things, but as well, work as perfect substitutes to each other, at least in the face of the patients from time to time. So how can we make sure that the increased convenience to Google My Symptoms, find my diagnosis online and buy my drug online, and never ever seeing a healthcare professional does not do more harm than give benefits to patients and society at the end? So what are the things that regulators and healthcare professionals have to keep in mind then?
So I think that it's a human nature to look for convenience because our lives are becoming more hectic, and online provides you the opportunity to save time. That's why we go online. As the survey this morning showed, we all use Dr. Google. So average person, and we are pharmacists, average person definitely uses Dr. Google. And there's no way for regulators to ban Dr. Google because Dr. Google is unbannable, it's there. So one of the things that you can do is you have to make sure that as a regulator or as a pharmacy profession, you are there where the patients are, and patients are online. So if you want to provide resources to these people, you have to be out there. You have, as a pharmacy, I think you have a lot of examples where pharmacy associations have developed apps. They have websites where they provide information, and you engage with the people where they are. You will have always certain category of people that don't want to go and use the convenient professional services. They will prefer to dial in and maybe use Skype, but you cannot deny that it exists. And I think in the future, you will see that there will be some people that will benefit from online consultations, and some of them will still go to use the professional services. So I think there is no harm in having both, as long as they are regulated and as long as you have the documentation. That's why I think one of the things that we see going forward is to make sure that whoever interacts with the person puts a record in the patient file which is accessible and owned not by a hospital or not by a doctor, but owned by a person himself or herself, in order to make sure that all the interactions are documented and whoever needs to make a decision, they have a full picture.
Can I add something? I was thinking about the same thing while I was listening to you. because sometimes it could be really harmful, and we have to be really very careful about that. So the opinion of the healthcare professional at a certain time point is really needed. And here again, talking about the digital solutions, okay, they can check something in Google, or they can use a chatbot, for example. Chatbots are getting more and more sophisticated around Europe and around the world. And also here comes into use also the telemedical solutions, because there it's convenient, it's on your smartphone, so you can be in touch with your physician, you can show a picture, you can even send some of your results from the tests. So the telemedical solutions here could be a kind of answer to your question and to this threat that patients could have.
So, just to reinforce what was already mentioned, I think it's important to have both online and physical, and everything is integrated so that we don't miss any opportunity. I totally agree. And one thing that is important is the online can be an advantage regarding the physical aspect is the psychological effect. So, for instance, with a chatbot or with an app, you are, as a patient, you are more willing to say the truth and to say the reality that you would do if you would face a person. So sometimes it's an advantage to have the online aspect, especially with things that you don't want to face the other person when you're telling the truth. So this is an advantage, for instance.
Most of the things have been said, but I want to add some small points. When you see questionnaires about the role of pharmacists, the inhabitants of the state say that the pharmacist is an important person at the third or fourth stage after the fire brigade. So that will mean when we have now a situation that the pharmacist is well known by patients and they have a high trust into pharmacists, then we should work on it to give this impression day by day personally to them. Because, you know, the trust in new data is decreasing, because so much fake news are on the market, so nobody can trust that what has been done, and to make a request to that takes so much time. So I know when my daughters are running by WhatsApp with their friends where they want to meet that evening, they need 1 hour and 100 chats. When you take a telephone call or you talk directly, it takes 1 minute. So that means when you transport that to new media are taking time of you, but giving you no time back. And that's why when you have a personal talk and a personal speech, it cannot be replaced by any other thing. So stay ahead and go and talk to the people.
Okay, thank you. We'll now again proceed to a question that was submitted through the app. The question is, why is Lithuania performing so much better than Germany when it comes to comparing spendings on cancer therapy and outcomes? Are there key differences?
So we had a discussion why probably Italy was better than Germany, and the discussion was they have red wine and have olive oil and something like that. So, you know, the discussion is about incidence and not mortality. Incidence will mean that you find out early enough the infected people. And that makes a difference between incidence and mortality. The incidence is growing and the mortality is decreasing because of the early stage of treatment. So this is some kind of relationship. And otherwise, the discussion, what was on the paper, was related then to the small number of participants. But anyway, I think important is to make the difference between incidence and mortality. That's most important, and that shows directly the outcome of the treatment.
Okay, thank you. Then I think I saw a question here in front before as well. From the audience, are there any questions? Oh yes, we have Ruben here in the front.
Hello, Ruben, Alumni Coordinator for EPSA. Thank you for all your presentations. I Yesterday we talked a lot about pharmacy services, and I have a question mainly for Isabel. In Portugal, I'm also Portuguese, and INF has a lot of impact on these services, and we have a lot of services. My question is, what is the role of the professional associations when advocating for more services that could tackle these NCDs? So what is the role of the professional associations?
Thank you for the question. I think that the role of the professional association is effectively to promote for the pharmacies a lot of services, but to compile best practices for the impact of the patient, and to promote the agreements to the NHS and other health professionals like nurses and doctors and nutritionists, and we can integrate all together and working together for the same issue. So I think that this is the role of the professional associations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll proceed to another question from the app. What do you think about marketing of OTCs in supermarkets?
I think I already answered the question because, I mean, what do you mean by marketing? Is it advertising? Is it displaying in the supermarkets, etc.? So I think, once again, if we talk about the access, we always think that wherever the product is, be it a pharmacy or be it a supermarket, that there's enough of information to promote responsible use of this product. And also we are talking about possibly reduction in the pack sizes, additional labeling information which should be provided because you may not place a healthcare professional. If we talk about advertising, I think because when we talk about advertising, as you know, in Europe you cannot advertise RX medicines, but you can advertise OTC medicines. And there's a reason for that, because RX medicines are prescribed by a doctor, where about OTC medicines, you have to find out yourself. And of course, if you are in a pharmacy, you will have a recommendation from a pharmacist. So I think advertising is especially important for new reclassifications. So for example, when the new medicine is being switched from RX to OTC, unless you have public information, which is advertising on the new therapeutic indication to be treated with OTC option, no one may find out. So we see the advertising as an information source, especially for those products that are newly coming off prescription, to make sure that people are aware of the self-treatable conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another self-care related question now up there, so I'll proceed with that one before taking another one from the audience. And it is there an index that measures if patients are performing self-care correctly?
I think it's difficult to establish an index because self-care is something that normally you do every day unconsciously. So I think if you have a headache, taking a paracetamol, 1 or 2, or taking anything else is a self-care. So I think it would be difficult to establish an index to measure. However, you have a pharmacovigilance system behind any medication, including the OTC. And since the update of the pharmacovigilance legislation, you are also reporting not only adverse reactions to non-prescription medicines, but you also are reporting errors or abuse or misuse of the medication. So I think with the new pharmacovigilance system, we have a kind of signal detection process, which allows you to identify those cases where self-care products are abused or used irresponsibly. And definitely quite often we get in the news because someone decided to suicide and take too much of the OTC medication, or certain products can be abused for recreational purposes. So we have enough of, I would think, systematic monitoring to make sure that those are addressed by the regulators in time and that those are minimized.
if you remember my presentation and this European report that I presented, one of the recommendations and the conclusions was related to the patient-reported outcomes. So this is a trend, this is something that is going on, and all these digital solutions focused on patient-reported outcomes could bring this index, because it's a very good idea to have it for certain disease areas.
So the panelists agree with the response?
Yes, it was just to reinforce I wanted to reinforce the importance of digital in this. You can use a journal where there are many apps that you can report what is happening in your treatment. So this is an opportunity to kind of having this index and following the treatment. It's just reinforcement.
Okay, thank you. Do we now have another question from the audience? Yes, again in front in the middle.
Hello, Stefan, Serbia. I do have a question. Since non-communicable diseases are chronic as well, so do you think the greatest obstacle in terms of therapy is not understanding biochemistry to find them and not being familiar with specific drug targets, molecular entities to target?
Could you kindly repeat the question?
Okay, am I loud enough? So do I need a microphone? So since non-communicable diseases are, in terms of research, facing that their biochemistry, so to say, mechanism, still needs to be profoundly researched. So do you think the greatest obstacle in the treatment that the pharmacy is facing is not knowing these specific these molecular entities to target?
If you mean the pharmacists are they are stupid a lot to understand this treatment, or what do you mean? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. That's why education is needed.
I think from my side, now talking as a pharmacist, I don't think that we know too little about communicable diseases. The main problem with the non-communicable diseases is that very often they require behavior change. We know that a diabetic patient would definitely benefit from actually healthy eating, being more active, and this is the most difficult to achieve. Because, you can be that's why I think the most successful, for example, quitting smoking, the smokers know that they quit very often. They don't actually stay without smoking. They quit a couple of times per year. So I think with non-communicable diseases, this is the main issue, is that it requires a profound behavior change once you are diagnosed. And we can see with the diabetes, there are studies showing that actually you can revert diabetes if you actually stick to healthy diet and exercise sufficiently. But this is the most difficult thing, because otherwise we would not have obese people either. So, and then the other thing, being a pharmacist, I have seen asthma patients not taking their controlled medication and staying on salbutamol because they feel better. So I think also with non-communicable diseases, cardiovascular, is because you don't feel symptoms, you just don't stick to your medication, and you have and this is again going back to the behavior and education. So I think there is a lot that can be done in the pharmacy in talking to people and educating them and explaining that if you achieve the controlled blood pressure today, if you stop your medication, you will go back to what you were before. But it requires a lot of conversations. And so I would just encourage any of you who will be a community pharmacist to have more of those consultations with the people that you are going to be dispensing packs and boxes of medicines.
So adding to that, there was research in Great Britain about depression, treatment of depression. You know, in Germany it's like this, when you have depression you go to the doctor prescribes for you a package of drugs, mostly 10, 100, because you have to pay in addition your money, and you save money, you get first 100 drugs, then you go home, after 2 days intaking the pills, the sun is shining for you. You take the drug 5 days longer, it's more shining for you, then you think I'm cured, then you stop with the drug, and after 2 weeks the darkness comes back. So then you go to the doctor and say this drug was not helpful, because it does not bring the drug back out of my mind. So he prescribed again a new drug. He prescribes just 100, that you save money, then you go back at the same story. And in Great Britain they did some kind of research what was supported by us. It's like this, that in the first 2 weeks you go daily to the pharmacist and take the drug. You take the drug in the pharmacy. Then the next time you go weekly to the pharmacy and you get the 7 drugs for the next week. And so on. And after 2 months, then you get it for 1 month. And when you are sure that you have intaken the drug 6 months, you can be sure that 80% of the patient have no depression after that. So in other countries, you get the drugs and you have depression all the time, and you cure 20% probably by themselves. So that makes a difference of education by pharmacists.
If I may add, I think there are many levels to answer this question. I agree on the education side, so it's important that first the healthcare professional understands the treatment, also that he can communicate effectively with the patient about this treatment. That was what Jurata and Klaus were mentioning. Communicating effectively and all the expectations about the treatment to the patient. And then one thing that is important is also, and coming back to my presentation on value-added medicines, on how can we provide solutions, because one of the main barriers is also, as mentioned, inefficiencies, non-adherence, polymedication, etc. So if we can somehow improve the existing medicine to address these barriers, so the microchip that you don't have, you have immediately the medicine in your body, you will adhere to the treatment. So, or for instance, for the example that Jurata mentioned on asthma, if you have, for instance, a new medical device associated with your treatment that tells you when to take the dose, if you took the dose effectively, so if there is an interaction between the patient and the medicine, all of these aspects can somehow improve the relationship between the patient and the non-communicable disease treatment. So that's something, I think there are many layers on this topic. And another question, because there are questions on value-added medicines. So I would like to ask again all of you if you ever heard about value-added medicines and if you understand the topic. So raise your hand if you understood the topic, please. Okay, still some room for improvement. I can discuss in the break.
Just to add something to the answers of this question, we have chronic diseases that need chronic treatment, and their behavioral changes are very, very important. But now with all these innovations that we have, now we have another group of diseases, I mean serious diseases, cancer, rare diseases that could be cured. So we know the target, and we could cure a certain number, a certain percentage of the patients. I'm talking about cell and gene therapies, which is something that is coming now these years. So this is the group of patients that we could cure them. And this is another big change that will happen in the next years, because unfortunately healthcare systems around Europe and around the world are not prepared for that. To assess this one-shot treatment and then you have the cure. So think also about this.
Okay, thank you. Now we also have another question from the app that's getting a lot of likes. So we'll proceed to this one, and it is, do you have any strategies on how to implement multi-professional work in university?
So that's a difficult question. Because you have not only multidisciplinarity in the pharmacy departments. Yeah. Will you be sure that the chemistry is talking with the technology a lot? So when we are talking about multidisciplinarity, we are talking about the understanding of the role of each person with his knowledge. And therefore, at first it has been to recognize what kind of knowledge it has. When you have a discussion, what is clinical pharmacy, and you have a chemistry professor, and he's saying, oh, now we are diluting, we are expanding not in vitro, we are doing that in vivo, and now we are clinicians. That makes not a big effort for this. It has to be implemented, a discussion, what kind of role each part of the education is playing, and how this all together brings a picture what is needed by the patient. That's the question. And when we discuss about that, we have to change in many countries the education program. But this is a relationship between the upcoming situation, how somebody became professor and will stay until his death, and how the structure in the education will change. And we see also, I heard it yesterday evening, the complaints about Germany, so we have not implemented Bologna a lot, and as long as we don't implement Bologna, and the relationship in between the education programs in all countries in Europe, how we can make progress in the main strategy. So I'm not, what should I say, I'm not so satisfied about the results, but I think the practice will make the progress as long as we go ahead with post-graduate education and post-educated programs, and the request will be answered by these programs to the demands of patients that will follow them to give follow-up for the universities themselves.
If I can add also from my previous life experiences that I think it's easy to implement multidisciplinary in the faculty. Again, you just bring the students together and normally you find many commonalities and you are quite collaborative. For me, the biggest challenge is how to re-educate existing professionals to actually talk to each other. And one of the things that we did in the pharmacy chain, which I worked for back in Lithuania, we did the training together with the doctors for the pharmacists, and then we did the training for the doctors by the pharmacists. And I think the best thing is to bring the professionals in the CPD courses of the other profession and first to educate them about the competences that you have, show them how you can help them, and like this you actually foster the communication. And also for the uptake of the pharmacy services, from my experience, if your local GPs do not support a pharmacy service, it's going to fail. So I think also for moving forward, it's very important that you, I mean, as a pharmacist, if in your pharmacy you are implementing a new service, you have to go and talk to your GPs and explain what you are going to be doing. So they don't hear it from the patients about what you are going to do it, but they hear it from you. So I think everyone has a responsibility to actually promote multi-professional interactions, and everyone has a role to play, starting from universities, professional associations, and also CPD courses. I think they should encourage more multidisciplinary education in both medical and pharmaceutical CPDs.
Just to add something, here in EPSA you're doing really great job. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that this kind of talks and this kind of things happen in the universities. There are many articles on that. Even there was one very interesting article in Harvard Business Review. I'm a medical doctor, and in the medical universities we are taught anatomy, internal medicine, whatever, but we are not taught on leadership skills, for example, or communication skills. And this is very important for your future job. We are not taught about entrepreneurship, for example. I think it's part of your job, going back to your universities and to your colleagues, to talk about these things that they are needed for your future development.
Okay, just to add on that, since EPSA has been very active in the area, we have recently released a methodology booklet which collected the opinions of you guys, so our members, pharmaceutical students, on pharmacy education. So feel free to check it out. Basically what the speakers have been saying is also written in there, so you can also use that to approach your faculties in regards to it. We also launch, this GA will decide whether or not we launch a position paper on e-health and digital skills, which also tackles upon education in regards to those areas. And when it comes to interprofessional education, we are active in ESAS, which is a summit of different healthcare students associations. We will be releasing a survey on interprofessional education soon after the annual congress, so feel free to help us reach responses there. And in the summer, our next event, the Summer University in Slovenia, will be on the topic of interprofessional education, and registrations will open a couple of days after this event. So if you're interested, make sure to apply. And yeah, as you can see, we're very active in this area, so it's good to see that there's interest coming from you guys as well. And since we're discussing education, and we already mentioned communication, I'll proceed to the next question because it's connected to the topic. So, should it be the university's responsibility to educate us in communication, or is that something that is better learned after we graduate?
I will start this. I would say we should learn it by life. So that would be the first thing what I would say. We started in the kindergarten and we finish it by the varying of others. You know, the communication is the base of everything. So when the first is listen and to share, and this finally to care for the other. So this is the base for everything. So how, you know, in Germany you can get a study place in medicine when you have a note what is really like to heaven. You know, it's 1.0. So, and they never are asked if they have an opportunity to communicate. And they never are asked if they have a deep feeling for patients. They study because they have done this good note in the baccalaureate, and they say, I mustn't study that because others have no chance to do that. And I think this is badly said. So, but I want to say that when there is not a different research in ourselves about that what we want to do, and if we care for others, then we can communicate with them. Because when I want to care for somebody and I don't know what he has, how can I care for him? So that's why I have to communicate. And this is life. It is nothing what I can study. It has to develop by my own. I have to look for the small plant from the beginning. So therefore, the question where it should be educated is for me the question should be educated live with everybody in the communication with everybody.
I think here I have a bit different view. I think that communication should be part of the pharmacy training because what I have seen very often also in my past when I was working with the 1,000 pharmacists, that communication can be taught. And the earlier you learn communication, and if it is integrated also with the consultation skill training, you can have a better pharmacist actually. Because communication skills are something that, yes, you should develop throughout the life, but there are certain communication skills that are more important for healthcare professionals than for other people. And you can definitely do a lot by developing those at the early start of your career, and preferably laying the grounds at the university. Of course, the communication should be also part of the continuing professional development, and also just to point the fact that you would be surprised how little people understand by talking to the doctors or even talking to the pharmacists. So I think communication teaches us to be actively listening as well, and making sure that you actually provide the information which is well understood by the person, which then results in better adherence, better patient outcomes, etc., etc.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we now have any more questions from the audience? If not, I will proceed to the next one from the app, which already has a lot of thumbs up as well. The gold age of antibiotics has ended. Would it not be necessary to work more on rational use of the medicines, like the control of opioids?
I don't think that golden age of antibiotics is over. I think we just need to make sure that we use them when appropriately, and we basically return to the golden age of antibiotics, because I mean, without them we would go back to Middle Ages where people died from simple infections. And here, yes, opioid crisis is an important one. I think we have less of that in Europe compared to the US. But again, I would go back to the core of my daily job, is that antibiotics are very often abused for the common cold and for flu, which is really not an indication which is on the list of antibiotic use. So I would say that use responsibly symptom relieving medication for cough and cold, and you can revert the antibiotic misuse, and you go back to the golden age where when you use antibiotics appropriately, you can expect that most of the infection diseases can be treated.
I think I followed the words from Rate, but I think we have also to have in mind the animals, the treatment of animals, how the use of antibiotics in the treatment of animals is occurring, and we have to look after that. And the Commissioner for Health was doing a lot of this in this direction, and I think it has to be go on further. And the second is when we see the good use of antibiotics. The good use means that you don't use them too long, you use them the right concentration, and so on and so on. So I think you can go ahead and look for different areas in different regions, and you can see how the treatment of drugs has been induced there, and you can see then the number of infected persons who have been resistant against antibiotics, and there's a great relationship. So I think that's the most important thing, that we have a good education from ourselves to support the treatment, what has to be done. So opiates, it's not related to antibiotics, but as well it's a problem. And I think now we get cannabis for free. So
just a little comment. So Yurata was mentioning that many antibiotics are used in the wrong indication, and it's very frequent, namely colds, flus, etc. I just would like to alert you, as we are all pharmacists here, that someone sold that antibiotic to someone that didn't need. So it's very important that you as a pharmacist detect the situation and give to the patient the best treatment possible. That is not, in this case, if it's a flu or an antibiotic, not an flu or a cold is not an antibiotic. So here it's important for you to, as pharmacists, take the lead and detect the situation and use the antibiotics rationally.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone now wish to ask from the audience still? If not, we'll continue with the app. The next question is, in every country there are people who cannot pay for their medicines. How is it possible to have access in such an expensive technology as microchips?
Yes, this is for me. So, there are here two questions. First, expensive is relative because it's related to the value that you give to a medicine. And second, you're assuming that microchips are expensive. I don't know, it depends. So that's the first part, the first answer. The second, where is the question? Oh, there was something on the question that I wanted to...
I took it off, just 1 second.
Okay, thanks, because I was pointed on.
Yeah, it's coming back now, it's on the top.
Regarding the first sentence, which is in every country there are people who cannot pay for their medicines, that's true. And that's why we have to think about how to efficientize the system. So we have many treatments that have a possibility of being replaced by generics, biosimilars that have a lower cost compared with the original treatment, and this is not fully utilized in the healthcare system. So this is an opportunity for you as pharmacists and also healthcare systems to take full advantage on this, to make sure that we have room for to integrate in innovation. So this is an opportunity. Of course, this is on the pharmaceutical side. On the healthcare system side, there is more than pharmaceutical. So there is much more things to be efficientized that currently are not. So we have a lot to do.
Okay, thank you. I again do not see any hands, so we'll go to the next question, which is, do you think that plant-based diet can be beneficial for treatment of cardiac diseases?
Well, I think there's this new trend of everyone going vegan or vegetarian or whatever. I think everything in moderation is good, and it's about striking the right balance. And I have seen already in my still short life different trends in the diet and nutrition coming and going. So I think plant diet is not a bad idea, and they say it's going to save the planet. But if you love a steak from time to time, I also don't think it's a great disaster, and I don't think you are at the higher risk of myocardial infarction as long as it is in moderation.
Okay, thank you. Then we can proceed to the next question. May e-health harm patients due to the lack of established personal connection between the patient and the medical professional?
Everything in our life could be harmful, so we just have to be careful. Regarding e-health and digital health solutions, we need to raise awareness because we see this with healthcare professionals, especially, okay, you're young people, it's okay with you, but when we talk to, let's say, more experienced people, then they are not aware of these technologies. So, for me, the most important thing now is to raise awareness about the digital health solutions in healthcare, and this could reduce this risk for these solutions to be harmful.
So I think that one opportunity here is to make sure that when this is in place, any e-health platform that was discussed upfront between pharma industry, regulators, authorities, policymakers, patients, healthcare professionals, all together, so that when this is implemented, it's already considered with all the aspects and what can go wrong, what can go, and the regulation is preventing these harmful situations. Of course, if it's something that it was not discussed and just implemented with no thought behind, that can be dangerous. But in principle, I think everything goes into the direction that when it's implemented, it was discussed up front.
Just to add to this, in the United States, FDA started to assess these digital health solutions because this is a health technology, and I think this is the way in which this will proceed. As a health technology, it should be assessed. The algorithm that is behind this and the whole process, everything. This could give another level of security, not to be harmful.
Similar to FDA in Europe, we have also, especially the apps, but also software, now can be certified as medical devices, which means that they go through certain assessments and they have to prove the effectiveness. So I think also as a future health professionals, you have to be able to distinguish between those apps that are of recreational use, and it's nice to have and nice to count your steps, and other apps that on the basis of those apps, people will be making health decisions. So I think this is very important that you are yourself knowledgeable of what is out there on the market. And I can tell you that maybe not today, but in 10 years, you will have many people coming in the pharmacy, showing you their lab tests, showing their basically heart rhythm or whatever on their phone. So I think it's important that you know how to interpret them and how to guide the patients in the correct direction. And we are also, unfortunately, this is very usual. The regulators are a little bit behind the trend, but we see they are catching up. They are definitely looking into how to start regulating this and how to distinguish between those apps that are nice to have and between those that need to have a certificate and need to have a certain guarantee behind that you can use them to inform your health choices.
And bear in mind that there is a new class of therapeutics. It is called digital therapeutics. So it's something that is very trendy now, and we are going also into this direction. So it's really moving very fast.
Okay, thank you. I will proceed to one last question, and it will be from the app again. It is, what could be used as backup in case when patient is picking up RX drugs and e-health system isn't working for technical reasons, internet server problems, and so on?
I would suggest in this case to go back to old good type of talking to a patient.
This is the unpredictable, to answer that question on education that was answered. So this is unpredictable situations that artificial intelligence digital space cannot answer. So that's why where you have to be ready to exactly. So you have to be ready. So you have to educate yourself on this.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will now proceed to the closing of the symposium. Thank you everyone for engaging. We do have a couple last questions for you. Instead of us giving you our take-home messages, we would like to see what you feel the take-home message was from this symposium. So please use the app and provide your answers so we can see what you learned through the speeches that we prepared for you in the last 2 days. Okay, communication is now starting to prevail from all of the answers.
Thank you for the value-added evidence.
Okay, so we can see that communication is prevailing in this question. We do have some trainings prepared for you at this event as well, so make sure to attend those further your communication skills. I will leave this on for 1 more minute to see the communication grow even further, I guess. Okay, thank you. We will then proceed to our second question. So, what do you think the future will bring in relation to NCDs? So what do you think the future is holding in regards to this topic, based on what you've learned in the last 2 days? The same answer again.
How did that happen?
Okay, we have treatment catching up to party. Or not. Okay, thank you for the answers to this question. And now we have one last question, since, like we've been saying, EPSA is here to complement the education you receive in your universities. So we, of course, want to keep providing you with the educational opportunities that you need. So we have one last question to help us shape our future events and our future activities. And of course, the question then is, which topics would you like to see EPSA focus on next? Okay, vaccination is going strong, as well as pharmaceutical science. Okay, thank you. We'll try to cover some of the topics that you mentioned. I will not read that word. Well, yes, thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers from today and from yesterday. Thank you for the engagement. Before you leave, I will just remind you that you all received a pen in your welcome bag. Please bring that pen to the workshops because the RC is running out since they have to provide new pens for every workshop. So please bring the pen that you received with you to the rest of the educational program so you can participate. Keep in mind the lunch distribution for today and the leaving times for the buses tomorrow. And yes, thank you very much. See you next time.